All right, welcome everybody. I'm excited that we are able to etch out some time this summer to start a new program that we hope will benefit the students and faculty and staff here at Embry-Riddle. I'm excited to have Greta from our recreation department, and just real quickly, I'm going to introduce myself, then I'll let Greta introduce herself as well. But I'm Teresa Michelson. I'm the director of the Counseling Center here at Embry-Riddle. I'm actually fairly new. I think I can get away with saying that for about a year, and then I become someone who's been here for a year at that point. But one of the big initiatives or things that I really have a strong interest in is not only mental health and the mental health of our college students, but overall wellness. So I will be inviting different partners on campus to have conversations about wellness from different perspectives and different areas of what wellness looks like. So I invited Greta today to talk a little bit about recreation and physical activity. So Greta, go ahead and you can introduce.
Yeah, thanks. My name is Greta Ledoyen. I'm the fitness center director, so I'm under the Department of Recreation and Intramural Sports. I kind of view fitness as a real baseline or a springboard for all the different facets of wellness. And Teresa, we've talked about this a few times now, but it really is kind of the platform in my mind that everything else can lift off of. So it's really important to me, and I love to bring the students in, kind of a family atmosphere in the fitness center, and then the more we can get out and explore, the better everybody is. Anyway, so.
Yeah, no, I'm right on board. I totally agree with you. I think I'll be happy to share an article. I'll see if I can kind of do that in the chat section here so people can reference it another time. But one of the things that I know as a mental health professional in the training that I've had, I've been doing this for about 23 years now, and very little conversations or discussions would involve physical activity and the benefits of that as it relates to mental health. But I think in the last decade, maybe the last 15 years or so, there's been a lot more research that has really shown the benefits, the psychological and the physiological benefits of incorporating physical activity into your everyday activities. And more and more, I think we're beginning to see how when we look at mental health or wellness from a holistic lens, we really begin to see the benefits of all these things. And so physical activity and exercise, mental health, those are just pieces of this holistic kind of picture. But when you begin integrating different parts of that into our daily routines, you really begin to see the benefits of that. So maybe, Greta, you can talk a little bit about just what you have learned and through your training and experience and the benefits of physical activity on mood regulation, on mental health in general.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing that I've learned is you don't have to go full on 100% all the time. You don't have to start exercising to run a marathon. You don't have to start exercising to be the strongest person in the world. All you have to do is move. And that's really where the recreation comes into it, or the activities of daily living, we call it, right? Park at the far end of the parking lot and walk in, or take the stairs instead of the elevator. Those things help too. But just a little bit of movement can really shift your whole mindset for the next hour or for the whole day, depending on where you are. So for me, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, I got into regular exercising based on mental health struggles that I was having. I had always been a dancer, so I would move 6 hours a day, and I didn't even realize it, that exercise had such an effect on me mentally, until I broke my foot my final semester of college, and then that was it, no more dancing. So I tanked, right? Fell into a real dark, wet hole, and I sat there for a while. But then a friend of mine got me into the gym. I'm like, I don't do that.
I don't gym.
No, I don't do that. But he took me around to a set of the machine exercises, so real basic, can't get hurt type of stuff. And we do that twice a week, and it made a huge difference. And after I kind of got over that initial fear, I started doing it more and more. And here I am now in a career of physical activity. And I've seen that with a lot of other people too. It was just something small that got me moving 2 times a week that was able to help kind of chip away at that iceberg that I could start functioning again. It was really amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that story too. I think it's helpful when we tie this information to something more personal in our own personal experience. And, I can relate to that as well. I think in your case, you were physically active, a good part of your day, and you probably weren't even aware of how much that was really contributing to your mental health in the time. All you knew is that you were feeling good, you were enjoying it. It was something that was pleasurable, that really embraced, that part of your life, and it became a part of your identity. And so when there's an injury, and we know this with sports psychology, we know this with athletes, that when there's an injury, all of a sudden our physical activity can be significantly impacted. And so not only are you kind of struggling with the loss of not being able to engage in the sport that you're playing in, but now you're not physically active. And so you've got this compounding mental issue kind of going on that's impacting how you feel about things. And so sometimes you kind of have to kind of get to that dark place to realize, wow, I didn't recognize how much this was really benefiting me on some level, just the physical activity. And I really appreciate you saying it doesn't mean that you have to immediately go out and train for a marathon. This is like anytime that we engage in any type of new behavior, anything that's going to help us improve or help us with our self-care, or we integrate more wellness into our daily lives, they can just start off with being baby steps. I mean, one of the things that we have found to be most effective is that we develop habits. And habits are typically retained when you do them over a duration of time. So if you make a habit out of coming home from work and walking your dog, or on your lunch break, 3 times a week, you bring your gym clothes and you go to the gym for a walk on the treadmill kind of thing, and you develop these habits, then they kind of become part of your daily routine. Almost like when you get up in the morning, hopefully one of the first things you do is brush your teeth, right? Hopefully you do that. So eventually that's become a habit. That's something you do to practice good oral hygiene. So a way to kind of think about exercise and wellness is really, it's an extension of your self-care. Finding ways and times during your day to do that. And I hope you don't mind me sharing the story that you shared earlier about how just doing some squats, in between meetings at your desk kind of thing, like incorporating just moments like that. And those make a huge difference, because within like 5 minutes, studies have shown that you are increasing your levels of dopamine and serotonin the minute that you begin engaging in any kind of physical activity. So
one of the main barriers that people will say, I would love to exercise, but I just don't have time.
yeah,
I prove, I guess, that with the squat breaks or push-up breaks, even in college, I would do this before I was an exerciser, right? Just a dancer. I didn't understand the same thing or the difference. I would be literally falling asleep at my desk trying to read a textbook, right? I'd get up and do, okay, I've got 10 jumping jacks and 10 push-ups, and then I'll get back to work. Okay. And then I can get back and focus on my academics. It's kind of amazing. But yep, I do squats when I fold laundry. I I skip down the road with the kids, whatever it is, to just move a little bit. It makes a big difference.
it does. And again, it doesn't have to be, hitting the gym or train for a marathon or any of that. Like, it can just be going for a walk. I think you did shared, don't park right up at the front door of someplace, park at the end of the parking lot and walk there. Use the stairs instead of the elevators, those kinds of things. And one of the things that we had talked about earlier too was that what motivates a person to get involved in being physically active. And I think what ends up being a good chunk of the time is that people do it because they feel like they're out of shape, or they feel like they want to lose weight or gain weight or whatever their motivation is. And so they're to look better. And so sometimes they can go from 0 to 60 with a workout plan that's just kind of set up to fail, because their intent of doing that is more on physical attributions rather than thinking about it being something as simple as you brush your teeth every morning, getting some kind of activity as
like
part of
mental hygiene.
Yes, I love that. Mental hygiene. Hashtag mental hygiene.
There you go.
So yeah, that's a wonderful kind of reflection and reframe of how staying active is more to do with your overall wellness and well-being.
Yeah.
And the secondary gain is that becomes your first and primary motivation. The secondary gain is going to be maybe you lose a little weight, maybe you gain a little bit of muscle, maybe your cardio ability increases, and so your heart rate or your blood pressure goes down. And these are all the things that we know physiologically, medically can shift when we just engage in 30 minutes a day of some kind of physical activity.
Yeah. And on top of that mental hygiene piece of that, 30 minutes of physical activity is what the government says we need to do for our physical health. But the mood boosting effects that are real, it's not just something we talk about. The research is showing this, right? The mood boosting effects can last 24 hours. So, and I think we mentioned this earlier, is it's almost like taking a medication to help your mood, except instead of taking a pill, you're moving and you're getting about 800 different benefits in that 30 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So before I forget, I do want to share the article in here, but one of the things that I would want people who are interested in reading more about this is to really understand what we're saying when we're talking about wellness and exercise. And that from my perspective, from a mental health perspective, oftentimes, the students that I work with are coming in because they're experiencing things like depression or anxiety. And it could be whatever, fill in the blank. I'm stressed because of my test I got to take. I'm stressed because of the financial situation I'm in. I'm stressed because I got to take, this flight exam in the next couple of days. So just insert whatever it is that's causing the stress for them. But that tends to be what students are coming in more often. As a clinician, as a mental health specialist, sometimes, we can over focus on what are you doing to, calm yourself down in the moment type of thing and kind of work on some behavioral plans. But one of the things that have been shown to be the most effective in treating depression and anxiety is exercise. That has been shown over and over again that when you have a control group, you've got a group that are taking medication, and then you've got a group who are engaging in exercise. The ones who are taking the medication and engaging in exercise are getting the same benefit, except one of them is also getting the additional benefits of the physical activity by exercising. So there's a lot to be said, a lot to learn about more research around this, and that how that continues to benefit us on multiple levels. I think the challenge is, and maybe you can speak a little bit more about this too, is that so how do you start a regime? Like how do you, someone who's, I think I actually wrote it down somewhere, is like, we know that attending to the outcome of fitness is probably one of the things that we know that's going to help. So why is it so hard to do? Why is it so hard to engage in that?
It's the first thing that goes. Even regular exercisers, all of a sudden things keep piling on, stressors keep coming, you get busy, you stop exercising. It's the number one thing to go. And I don't know why that is, but if it's a habit, it's harder to let it go.
Yes.
Or what I found true for me is I might start dropping it and I'll go, why am I so tired all the time? I have no energy. I don't want to do anything. I'm not sleeping very well. I'm grouchy all the time. Oh, wait, I think I need to go for a run.
Yes.
And then I can start over again.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I can share that I'm a runner, and I haven't been running. I haven't been a lifelong runner, but I've always been active in some kind of activity. And running for me just started when I was about 39 years old, and which almost 10 years ago of how long I've been running. But my gosh, if I go a few days without going for a run, or all right, I just got that in there. Without going for a run or engaging in any kind of activity, like I feel it. I get cranky. So after about 2 days, if I haven't, exercised or done anything, I'm like, I need to go for a bike ride, or I need to go for a run because I'm feeling. So that's how I know.
The hard thing is for people who don't already have that connection with physical activity, it's kind of like, well, why would I start then? And there, I think you really need to go back and look at what are all the things that it can help from a physical standpoint. Believe it or not, blood pressure is something that college students are dealing with right now. And it's not unusual now, but it was unusual 10 years ago.
Yeah.
For people that young to be having heart health issues, but a lot of it's a lack of activity. so there's the physical benefits, the physiological benefits, that you're going to be stronger, fitter, whatever. But that little boost of mood, and it's immediate.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, you got to wait a couple months to get the physical benefits to look better, but the mood benefits are immediate.
yeah,
And you don't, if you're working so hard during your workout that you're uncomfortable or you're like, you can't breathe, you keep talking down to yourself, then you're working way too hard.
yeah,
Way too hard. You can ease into that.
yeah.
Teresa, in that article, you had mentioned that there's talking about fight or flight,
Mhm.
that you kind of train your body to get used to that uncomfortable feeling. Do you want to share a little bit more about that? Because I think that's so interesting.
I know, I do too. I really found that part to be interesting too. And I have awareness of the fight or flight. So for those of you who don't know, we are programmed to behave in one of two ways when we're under stress, fight or flight. And it typically comes from a primal part of our brain called the amygdala. And that is our survival. Like we learned how to run when, the dinosaurs were chasing us type of thing. And so it's an innate thing that we are programmed to do. The way that it has translated to the more modern age is that when we are experiencing anxiety, we typically will begin to feel that stress of fear. And the fear can be something very physical that's kind of happening to us around us, or it can be more like the anticipation of fear, like, oh, I got this test coming up, or a public speaking, or whatever. You're not in the moment, but there's that anticipatory type of fear that is happening. So your heart rate begins to increase, you begin to sweat, you're shaking, maybe your mouth, fills with cotton, like all those things that we feel when we're anxious and stressed. That is normal. That is our way of kind of saying it's putting our body at alert. It's like, be ready. Be ready. Something is happening. You need to be alert to figure out what you're going to do in the moment. That's biological. Sometimes it can elevate to what we know as a panic attack, where things become so elevated that you now become debilitated. You can't even talk. You're having to pull over on the side of the road because your heart is racing so hard you can't focus. Like all these things that become really elevated to the point where you can't not function anymore. That reaction, your body's stress reaction, is very similar to somebody who might be training or doing like either an endurance or speed work. You are elevating your body, your physiological levels to a point where your heart is racing at peak. For me, my heart rate zone when I'm all 90% out is like between 170 and 180. When I'm in that zone, I'm stressed out. Like that is an uncomfortable zone to be in. Like my heart is racing. I can't catch my breath. My head is going, oh my God, you need to stop. You need to stop. I'm at that peak level. Those two neurological things that are kind of happening are very similar. Your brain is responding in the same exact way to stress. It's amazing what our bodies and our brains can do to kind of protect us and keep us safe. That distress of being in that 170, 180, my body is saying, slow down, you're going to give yourself a heart attack, you need to slow down, you're going too fast type of thing. Or the lactic acid begins to build up, or my lungs are at capacity, like all those things, my body is saying, this, stop. So when we engage in activity that puts us at those elevated rates, it's almost like, I actually wrote it down, it's immersion therapy. Like you are actually putting yourself in that experience where you are now having a co-occurring experience of being under stress, but not afraid. Afraid of a very stressful situation, not afraid, but still in distress. But you're okay. Like you're not going to die type of thing. So when you begin to kind of give it this corrective experience, you learn that when your heart rate races, when you're feeling elevated, when you're feeling that kind of stress, it's okay. You're going to be okay. So it's a corrective experience that allows you to understand how to manage that stress. So biofeedback is a wonderful technique where you learn to kind of self-regulate. So after a really high intensity run, I learned to get my heart rate back down again by focusing on my breathing, right? We all know that if you get your breathing under control, your heart rate will begin to decrease and you get back to that baseline level. When you're having a panic attack, you learn how to breathe, get your heart rate down, get yourself back down to that baseline where you can operate. Yeah. Those two things are exactly the same. One is fear, One is some kind of endurance training that you're doing.
And you know what's interesting, as you're talking through this, I'm thinking when I'm coaching somebody into those higher intensities, we talk about like if this is one of their first or second experiences in that higher level of training, it very much is, I think I need to sit down. Like you can see this beginning of a panic starting to happen, like something's not right here. And it's like, this is your body's normal response to exercise.
Yeah.
This is okay. We can take our level of intensity down a little bit until you get more comfortable with your heart rate going that fast and you're breathing that intense.
Yeah.
And I promise, the more we gently push that envelope up, the more comfortable you'll be in that state.
Right.
So it's like I train people into that higher intensity level, and you're saying that that training is helping people go from a high fear level back down.
Yes.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, the thing our bodies do on a daily basis, we only know this much of it, and it has a way of kind of figuring it out. But one of the things that I think is important to know about our overall holistic wellness is that it's not just siloed. We can't just focus on one thing. Like we need to look at our wellness and our care from a holistic perspective, and how being physically active helps that is just one piece of that additional pie of wellness. And if we don't have these things as part of our daily routine, we're going to suffer. If we don't drink enough water, that's going to be a problem. If we don't eat the right food, that's going to be a problem. If we don't get enough exercise or activity, that's going to be a problem. And so, yeah. So kind of back to the question of, it might have been a little bit of a rhetorical one. Is like, why is it so hard? Why is it so hard to go exercise, right?
I don't know.
Because it's that people could think of 1,000 reasons why. I don't have time. It's too hot outside. That's mine right now. Mine is like, it's so hot outside right now. Okay, it's hot. It's hot. So what can I do instead? Well, I can go for a bike ride and catch a breeze. So I can go an hour on the bike instead and not, become one with the asphalt as I'm running, kind of thing. So there's other things that you can do to find ways to stay active, and it always comes back down to, if it's really important, if you recognize how important it is, and what you're doing is not working for you, you're going to have to make a cognitive decision to make some behavioral changes and lifestyle choices. Like you're going to have to think about that and make time for that. There's no magic pill, magic wand, anything that's just going to instantaneously make things better. You got to work at it. Mm-hmm. Everything that we've done so far in life, you've had to work for. You've had to learn how to talk. You've had to learn how to walk. You've had to learn how to do all those things because you practiced and you made it a priority. So.
And really, in terms of an instant fix, I don't think there's anything more instant for a mood boost than a little activity.
Yeah, and you have to recognize the mood boost.
I think that's huge.
Yeah.
You need to become aware. Like, as you mentioned, me in college, and dancing all the time, I didn't know that it had all those effects on me. It was just what I did. It's what I did my whole life.
Yeah.
Until I lost it, then I realized that there's something to this.
Yeah.
And if you've not had that, if you haven't been active your whole life, this is something that, give it a try.
Yeah.
Because it can't hurt you. It can only help. And it doesn't take much. You don't need anything fancy. You need just to start.
Yeah.
I have dance parties in my living room.
That's awesome.
With kids, so it helps, like, the uncomfortable, like, this is weird, but but you close the blinds, nobody can see anyway.
Yeah, you're modeling movement. You're modeling just having fun with a little bit of movement. And if they break into a sweat, there's nothing wrong with that. So awesome.
Give it a go. Give it a try.
I might just start breakout and dance now. Close all my blinds, turn on some Beyonce. It'll all be good.
There you go. Whatever floats your boat.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and having this conversation. I think if you just want to maybe take another minute, just talk a little bit about I know all of us are just kind of working in this virtual world right now and the kind of services that we're able to offer, but what would be helpful for the students and faculty and staff to know about how to engage more in physical activity that we're offering here at Embry?
Okay, thank you. We are physically, our building is open, limited hours, but we're open. And you can find the details on that because it changes on our Ernie page, Fitness Center Ernie page. But we are doing virtual classes. So we have yoga on Tuesdays at noon, and we have cardio and core on Wednesdays at noon. So I think you can find that on Instagram. You can find that on our Ernie page, definitely. And we'll send an email out too, just so that you know where that stuff is, where the Zoom link is, because I think we all figured out Zoom now. Now we're learning Teams, but we're still on Zoom.
Okay.
And then I think there's a scavenger hunt going on right now. So if you are on campus at Daytona Beach, the clues are there to guide you to the really fun workout spots that are outdoor at Embry-Riddle, because there's a few. You got to get a little creative, but we've got some good spots.
That's awesome.
So there's a scavenger hunt happening right now. So find Instagram, there'll be weekly clues.
Okay.
And then in the fall, we're going to try to do some of the outdoor. We've been taking outdoor trips. It'll probably look more like clinics and kind of learn the skills that you need when you go out backpacking. Like if you ask me what you need to go backpacking, I would probably say a backpack, some bug spray. I don't know. But there is some thought that goes into that stuff. And so we'll probably have some clinics on that so that you can take some of these adventures on your own. We talked about mood and exercise. It works when you're inside, but it works even better when you're outside.
Yeah, agree.
In awe of nature. So kind of keep your eyes out, because we're around and things pop up here and there, and pay attention to it.
Okay.
I'll look for it.
Awesome. Thank you, Greta.
Thank you. I had a lot of fun, Teresa.
Yeah,
We should do this again.
great. Absolutely. All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
I didn't really hang up. I'm just going to stop the recording.